Welcome back, everyone, to LexTalk, our deep dive into all things English language here in Thailand.
Yeah, welcome back.
It's season 4, episode 6 already.
Time flies when you're having fun, right?
It really does, and so much has changed, especially in the world of English language learning.
Right. Think about it.
Think about virtual classrooms. They're everywhere now,
Yeah.
and we're getting so many questions from all of you, our amazing listeners, our educators, parents, everyone who's just passionate about how English is taught and learned. So today, that's exactly what we're digging into. Virtual classrooms, the good, the bad, the tech, and of course, the future. We're going to look at the research, what's actually happening in classrooms here in Thailand, and some practical advice to navigate this whole new world.
It's a big one. From AI to the metaverse, things are changing so fast, and it's really important to unpack it all.
Absolutely. So first things first, what are we even talking about when we say virtual classroom? I mean, what does it actually look like in practice?
Right. Well, I think a lot of us have a pretty good picture in our minds already, right? Because so many of us have actually been in virtual classrooms over the past few years. It's basically a learning environment where, the teacher and the students, they're not physically in the same space. They're connecting remotely
Hmm.
using technology, usually video conferencing
Yeah,
platforms.
those platforms are becoming so familiar.
Yeah, I mean,
Zoom, Google Meet, Microsoft Teams,
yeah,
WebEx, all this.
exactly. I mean, they've become like, the go-to places for this virtual interaction, right? And the interesting thing is they're not just replicating a traditional classroom. They're coming with all these cool features that actually, enhance some aspects of teaching and learning. For example, you can share your screen.
Right, sharing screens, so useful.
Incredibly useful.
For presentations, for documents, for navigating websites together.
Yes, right.
I mean, it's become so essential.
It really has. And, breakout rooms.
Ooh, yeah, breakout rooms. Like, those are fantastic. You can split the class into smaller groups, and they can have, focused discussions and collaborate on specific tasks. It's actually much easier sometimes to manage in a virtual space than it is in a physical classroom.
And then the chat function. The chat is just so convenient.
Oh, yeah, I mean, for quick questions or links, or even just, a bit of back channel conversation while someone's presenting.
Right. Keeps everyone engaged.
Yeah, exactly. And let's not forget those digital whiteboards. Those are fantastic too. Everyone can contribute, brainstorm ideas, work on problems together.
Oh, yeah, like a collaborative brainstorm. Love it.
It's visually engaging, very interactive.
And, I mean, this isn't just theory, right? We're seeing this happening here in Thailand. Universities, they adapted quickly,
Yeah,
especially during those first few years of the pandemic.
yeah.
So many ESL classes moved entirely online.
Right, using Zoom, integrating things like Google Classroom to organize assignments and keep everything running smoothly. I mean, this is the reality for a lot of learners and teachers right now. So it's definitely happening. Okay, so let's talk about the good stuff, the opportunities that virtual classrooms are opening up. Accessibility, that has to be a big one, right?
Huge. I mean, it's truly game-changing when you think about it. Imagine a student in, let's say, a rural area of Thailand. They might not have had access to the same quality English teachers as someone living in a big city.
Right, or even if they did, it might involve a lot of travel.
Exactly. Travel, time, expense. And suddenly, with virtual classrooms, those barriers kind of dissolve.
Mhm.
All they need is a decent internet connection
Right, and they can connect with experienced teachers
from anywhere.
from anywhere.
It's about equity, creating a more level playing field.
And it's not just the students who benefit, right? Teachers also have a much broader reach.
Oh, absolutely. They can connect with students from different provinces, different countries even. It's about building these diverse learning communities, bringing different perspectives together.
So it's kind of like it breaks down those traditional geographical boundaries.
Yeah, and then there's flexibility.
Flexibility, oh yeah, that's huge.
I mean, think about it. A lot of virtual classes can be recorded. So if a student misses a live session, they can catch up later.
Right, or if they need more time to digest the material.
Exactly. They can go back, review, work at their own pace.
Yeah.
It's really good for those, who learn best through repetition or need a little extra time.
And we can't forget about those breakout rooms, right?
Yeah, those are great for flexibility too, You can create groups based on skill level, learning style, whatever works best for that particular activity.
Hmm.
It's tailoring the learning experience in a way that's really difficult to do in a large traditional classroom.
And then, of course, we have to talk about the technology itself, right?
Yeah.
It's not just about connecting remotely. It's about using tech to enhance the learning.
Right. The tools themselves can be really powerful. I mean, think about online whiteboards like
Oh,
Jamboard
yeah, I love
or
Jamboard.
Miro.
Yeah.
These are great for visual learners, for brainstorming, for collaborating on projects.
And then there's games.
Oh yeah, games are fantastic.
Kahoots, quizzes.
It makes learning fun and engaging.
Absolutely.
Right, and then multimedia, integrating things like YouTube videos, Padlet, shared Google Docs. It's amazing what you can do.
And I'm thinking about even here in Thailand, private language centers are using Zoom to offer English classes in the evening to students all over the world.
Yeah, it's incredible, right? They're not limited by their physical location anymore.
And if we think even bigger, the metaverse is starting to enter the conversation, and it's not just science fiction anymore.
Yeah, this concept of interconnected virtual worlds, it's being explored in education too.
Imagine practicing conversations in these immersive, simulated scenarios.
Yeah, it could be revolutionary, particularly for things like oral English. Yeah. Where students need that practice, that confidence building.
Okay, so lots of exciting opportunities, but let's be real. Virtual classrooms also have their challenges, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the biggest ones is engagement.
Engagement, keeping students focused.
It can be tough. At home, there's so many distractions, and you don't have that same level of social pressure to stay on task that you might have in a physical classroom.
And you miss out on those nonverbal cues, those little interactions that happen naturally when you're in person.
Yeah, it's easier to feel isolated, disconnected.
So, what are some things teachers are doing to try and address this engagement challenge?
Well, a lot of it comes down to using the technology strategically, you know,
Right, using those tools to keep students active.
things like interactive polls,
Hmm.
to get quick feedback, to check for understanding.
And calling on students by name,
Absolutely, making them feel seen, heard.
giving them roles in discussions, rotating those roles to make sure everyone has a chance to participate.
Yeah, those are all good strategies. And then there's the technology limitations themselves.
Right, tech issues that can really throw a wrench in things.
Definitely. Not everyone has access to fast internet or reliable devices.
And we're thinking about like students who only have their phones
Right, trying to do a writing activity on a small screen.
or sharing devices with siblings.
Exactly, those are real barriers.
And then the audio, the video quality.
So frustrating.
If you can't hear properly, it's so hard to focus, especially when you're trying to learn a language.
Right, those nuances of pronunciation, the intonation, it all gets lost if the connection's bad.
So, any advice for teachers who are dealing with these tech challenges?
Well, being flexible is key, right? If you know bandwidth is an issue, maybe you focus on audio-only activities.
Right, less data intensive.
Exactly. And recording sessions so students can catch up later if they have connection problems during the live class.
It's all about adapting.
And then there's classroom management, which takes on a whole new dimension in a virtual setting.
Because you can't physically see everyone, it's harder to tell who's engaged and who's, browsing the internet.
Yeah, it's tricky. Managing mics, cameras, the chat, it all requires a different approach.
So, what works?
Visual timers can be helpful, clear guidelines for camera use.
But also, like, respecting students' privacy in situations. Not everyone's comfortable being on camera all the time.
Of course, of course. And structured tasks with very specific instructions.
Right, so there's no confusion.
And assigning moderators for breakout rooms, that can help keep the discussions focused.
And this brings us to something we talked about earlier, the role of emerging technologies like AI and the metaverse. You've been looking at the research on how these technologies are being explored for young English learners here in Thailand, especially in this post-pandemic world.
It's a really interesting landscape full of potential. I think there's a lot of excitement about the metaverse with its VR and AR capabilities. It's this idea of creating truly immersive learning environments.
So we're not just talking about video calls anymore. We're talking about like stepping into a virtual world.
Exactly. Imagine a student practicing ordering food at a virtual restaurant in London, interacting with a virtual waiter.
Or giving a presentation in a virtual conference hall.
Yeah, the possibilities are pretty mind-blowing, and it could really help with building confidence and fluency in spoken English.
And what about AI? What role is it playing in this?
AI is being used in a bunch of different ways. I mean, there are studies showing that combining AI and VR in a blended learning approach can actually boost English proficiency.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for example, there was this study with Japanese university students where those who use AI-powered speakers as part of their English practice scored better on the TOEIC test.
Wow, so it's not just about vocabulary and grammar, it's about actual improvement in language skills.
Right, and it's not just for university students either. Immersive technologies are being explored for K-12 ESL learners too.
Mhm.
Imagine using VR to simulate real-life situations where students need to use English, ordering food, asking for directions, things like that.
It's about making the learning relevant and engaging, right?
Exactly. And it's not just about language skills. They're also finding that these immersive experiences can help students develop other skills, like critical thinking and problem solving.
So it's kind of like a holistic approach to learning.
Yeah, I mean, AI is also being used to create really interesting tools for EFL learning and teaching, like AI-powered chatbots that can have conversations with students and give them personalized feedback.
So students can practice speaking anytime, anywhere.
Exactly. And there are virtual tutors that can provide guidance and support, adaptive platforms that adjust the difficulty level based on the student's progress.
That's so cool. It's like having a personalized tutor.
Yeah, and there are automated feedback systems that can give students instant corrections on their writing or even their pronunciation.
So is any of this happening in Thailand?
Well, large-scale implementation might be a little way off, but there are definitely individual teachers and schools experimenting with these tools.
Are there any specific examples you've come across?
Yeah, some teachers are using Grammarly or ChatGPT to help students with their writing,
Right, providing that extra feedback and support.
and some are using Duolingo, which uses AI to personalize the learning experience.
And what about the metaverse? How is that being used for language learning?
Well, it's still early days, but some people are looking at platforms like Minecraft and Roblox, which are already popular with young people, and seeing if they can create educational experiences within those virtual worlds.
So using something familiar and engaging to teach English.
Exactly. And there are examples of virtual environments like Second Life being used for ESL learning, where students can interact with each other and practice their English in a more immersive way.
So it's about moving beyond the traditional classroom setup and creating these more dynamic learning spaces.
Yeah, I mean, the research emphasizes that we can't just take our old classroom methods and try to apply them directly to the metaverse.
Right, it needs to be reimagined, redesigned.
We need to think about how to leverage the unique capabilities of these virtual worlds to create truly engaging and effective learning experiences. There's a great example of this with Inglehaven Island, a virtual environment specifically designed for English language learning.
What's special about Inglehaven Island?
Well, students who used it reported significant improvements in their speaking skills, including fluency, pronunciation, vocabulary, grammar.
Wow, a comprehensive improvement.
Yeah, and they also reported improvements in their listening skills, which is interesting.
So it's really about creating a holistic learning experience within these virtual worlds.
Exactly. And it could be really beneficial for students who are shy or nervous about speaking in a traditional classroom.
Right, it gives them a safe space to practice and build their confidence.
And it's not just about secondary or university students. Even primary school teachers are starting to think about how they can use AI to support English language learning.
So it's really impacting all levels of education.
Yeah, they see the potential for personalized learning, immediate feedback, but they also recognize the challenges.
Challenges like,
Infrastructure, for example. Not all schools have the resources for these technologies. And teacher training. Teachers need to be comfortable using these tools effectively.
right, it's not just about having the technology, it's about knowing how to use it to its full potential.
Exactly. And we need to make sure these technologies are accessible to all students, regardless of their background or socioeconomic status.
So equity is a big part of this conversation.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've talked about a lot of big ideas. Let's get practical. What are some tips for teachers who are teaching English in virtual classrooms right now?
Right, what can they do to make their lessons more effective?
Well, one thing is to keep the lessons short and focused.
Right, shorter segments.
Yeah. It's easier to keep students engaged when the content is broken down into manageable chunks.
And using interactive tools like those we talked about earlier?
Absolutely. Screen annotation, polls, Jamboard, Google Slides, anything that gets students actively involved.
And what about when the tech fails? Because, let's be honest, that's going to happen.
Always have a backup plan, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe some offline activities you can switch to if the internet goes down.
Right, it's all about being prepared.
And building community, it's so important in a virtual classroom. So starting the lesson with introductions, checking in with students, using engaging collaborative tasks, all those things can help.
What about webcams? Is it important for students to have their cameras on?
It can be helpful for engagement and nonverbal communication, but it's also important to be sensitive to students' situations. Not everyone is comfortable being on camera, and that's okay. You know, I heard about this Thai teacher who starts each lesson with a simple question of the day. It's a nice way to build rapport and get everyone talking without putting pressure on anyone.
That's a great idea, keeping it low pressure.
And when it comes to things like educational games or AI-powered tools, the key is to make sure they're aligned with your learning objectives.
Right, they need to serve a purpose.
Games like Kahoots and Quizlet can be fun, but they should also be helping students learn. And with AI tools, it's important to be aware of ethical considerations like data privacy and potential bias in algorithms.
Those are important points to consider.
And AR and VR, those are really exciting tools for creating immersive learning experiences.
We talked about Mondly VR, Google Expeditions.
There's research showing that VR can actually lead to higher levels of oral proficiency, which is really promising.
But all of this relies on teacher training, right? Teachers need to know how to use these technologies effectively.
Absolutely. Professional development is crucial. Teachers need to be confident in their digital skills and understand how to integrate these tools into their teaching in a way that benefits students.
So it's a journey, a learning curve for everyone involved.
Definitely.
So big picture, virtual classrooms, they're here to stay, and they're changing the way we learn and teach English.
They're creating incredible opportunities, connecting people, making learning more accessible, and opening up new possibilities for using technology to enhance the learning experience.
And while there are definitely challenges like engagement and technology limitations, and we need to think carefully about how we address those, there's also so much potential, especially with the emergence of AI and immersive technologies.
It's an exciting time to be involved in English language education.
It really is. So, to all our listeners, as you think about what we've discussed today, what are you most excited about? What are your biggest concerns? Share your thoughts with us. This is a conversation we all need to be having.
Yeah, it's a collaborative effort.
Don't forget to follow LexTalk on all our platforms. Our website, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, SoundCloud, and Spotify. You can find us at LexTalk Podcast.
Yeah, join the conversation.
Let's talk, let's learn, let's Lex Talk.